How to talk with anyone. Lena understood every English movie, every complex article, every witty podcast. Her comprehension was impeccable, a silent superpower she cherished. Yet, when faced with a native speaker, her tongue tied into an impossible knot, words dissolving into a nervous, inaudible whisper. This frustrating silence became her greatest hurdle. She yearned to articulate her thoughts, to join vibrant conversations, to truly connect. The disparity between her understanding and her inability to speak felt like an invisible barrier, a cruel trick of the mind. Why could she grasp meaning so easily, but not produce it? It was a perplexing dilemma. One evening, lost in thought, Lena remembered an old language learning adage, "You can't speak what you haven't heard." The truth of it resonated deeply. Her listening had been largely passive, absorbing but not actively engaging with the rhythm and intonation of natural speech patterns. She decided to shift her approach. No longer would listening be a background activity. It would become a focused, deliberate practice. She began by listening to short dialogues, then immediately attempting to repeat phrases, mimicking accents, and capturing subtle nuances of spoken English. This active listening, though initially exhausting, opened up new pathways in her brain. She started noticing how native speakers linked words, how they stressed syllables, and how their voices conveyed emotion. This wasn't just understanding words, it was understanding the music of speech. Podcasts became her daily companion, but with a twist. Instead of just hearing, she paused frequently, replaying sentences, and shadowing the speakers. This meant speaking along with them, trying to match their speed and intonation, even if only under her breath at first. She discovered that true listening isn't merely hearing sounds. It's about paying attention to the speaker's intentions, their pauses, their nonverbal cues. This deeper form of listening helped her anticipate responses and formulate her own thoughts more effectively in real-time conversations. The next challenge was speaking itself. It was terrifying. The fear of making mistakes, of sounding awkward, held her captive. Yet, she knew she had to break free. Why should I practice speaking? She asked herself. Because understanding isn't enough. Speaking practice was the bridge between comprehension and communication. It was the only way to solidify new vocabulary and grammatical structures in her active memory. Her brain needed to move from passive recognition to active production, a crucial step for fluency. Lena started small, talking to herself in English while doing chores, narrating her day, describing objects around her. This low-pressure environment allowed her to experiment with words and sentences without the fear of judgment. It was her private English laboratory. Then came the more daunting step, finding speaking partners. She joined an online language exchange group, her heart pounding before her first video call. Her initial conversations were halting, filled with ums and long silences, but she persisted, remembering her goal. Each awkward conversation was a victory. Each stumble was a lesson. She learned to embrace imperfection, understanding that mistakes were not failures, but stepping stones towards improvement. Fluency wasn't about perfection, it was about effective communication. How to learn English, she mused, realizing it was an ongoing journey, not a destination. It involved consistent exposure, deliberate practice, and a positive mindset. There was no single magic bullet, but a combination of dedicated efforts across multiple fronts. She integrated reading into her speaking routine. Reading aloud, she found, helped connect her eyes to her ears and her mouth. She'd choose articles or short stories, reading them with exaggerated intonation, imagining she was performing for an audience. Reading, she understood, was fundamental. It built her vocabulary, exposed her to varied sentence structures, and reinforced grammar patterns. When she read, her mind absorbed the language's architecture, making it easier to construct her own coherent sentences later. New words encountered in reading were immediately added to her active vocabulary. She didn't just passively read them, she practiced pronouncing them, used them in imagined sentences, and tried to incorporate them into her internal monologue throughout the day. The synergy between reading, listening, and speaking became clear. Her improved listening helped her discern natural speaking patterns, which in turn informed her own speaking. Her expansive reading provided the words and grammar she needed to express those ideas. How to improve your fluency? This question no longer seemed overwhelming. It wasn't about speed, but about smoothness and confidence. Fluency meant being able to express herself without constantly searching for words or getting stuck on grammar rules. She started recording herself. Listening to her own voice, she could identify areas for improvement, pronunciation quirks, repetitive phrases, or awkward pauses. This self-assessment was invaluable, offering insights a mirror couldn't provide for her voice. Connecting with native speakers became less daunting. She focused on asking open-ended questions, encouraging them to elaborate, which gave her more listening practice. She learned to embrace the natural ebb and flow of a conversation, rather than fearing it. She learned to ask for clarification without embarrassment, using phrases like, "Could you rephrase that?" or "What do you mean by that?" This not only helped her understanding but also showed genuine engagement, making her a more effective communicator. Her confidence blossomed with each interaction. The initial fear began to dissipate, replaced by a growing excitement to share her thoughts and opinions. The world of English communication, once a closed door, was now slowly creaking open for Lena. How to improve your listening skills was a question she now had a solid answer for. Active engagement was key. It wasn't about passive background noise, but about intentional focus, anticipating, interpreting, and responding to the spoken word. She challenged herself with different accents, from British to Australian, Irish to American. This broadened her auditory comprehension, preparing her for the diverse range of English speakers she might encounter, making her listening truly robust. The initial struggle to speak, the shame, the internal battles, they were all fading memories. Lena discovered that every small step, every awkward sentence, every moment of confusion, had contributed to her remarkable progress and growing self-assurance. She started watching English news channels, not just for information, but to analyze how reporters structured their sentences and delivered their lines. This helped her understand formal and informal speech patterns, enriching her linguistic repertoire immensely. Joining an English book club, Lena pushed herself further. She wasn't just reading, she was discussing. Articulating her interpretations and listening to others' perspectives sharpened both her speaking and comprehension, creating a dynamic learning environment. The concept of why you must listen became profoundly clear. Listening was the foundation. Without truly absorbing the language, without understanding its nuances and rhythms, speaking would always remain mechanical, lacking natural flow and expression. Listening provided the input. Speaking provided the output. Reading refined both. It was a cycle of continuous improvement, each skill feeding into the others, creating a holistic and effective learning strategy that propelled Lena forward with enthusiasm. Why reading is so important had evolved beyond just vocabulary. It was about cultural context, about understanding idiomatic expressions, about appreciating the beauty and complexity of the English language in its written form, a treasure trove. She began keeping a journal in English, writing about her day, her thoughts, her dreams. This daily writing practice reinforced her vocabulary and grammar, solidifying the lessons learned from reading and listening, a quiet yet powerful reinforcement. Lena also started watching English stand-up comedy and sitcoms, not just for entertainment, but to pick up on natural conversational speed, slang, and humor. Understanding jokes was a true test of cultural and linguistic proficiency, a fun challenge. She practiced thinking in English. Instead of translating from her native language, she forced her brain to directly formulate thoughts in English. This reduced internal processing time, making her responses quicker and more spontaneous in conversations. This mental shift was transformative. It bypassed the translation step, which often led to awkward, unnatural phrasing. Thinking directly in English allowed her to access and deploy the language more organically, like a native speaker would. She embraced the power of repetition. New phrases and expressions weren't just learned once, they were repeated aloud, used in different contexts, and integrated into her daily self-talk until they became second nature, effortlessly accessible in conversations. Lena sought out opportunities to speak, not just online, but in person. She frequented international cafes, joined local hobby groups where English was spoken, and even volunteered for events requiring English communication, actively seeking exposure. The initial fear of public speaking dwindled. She realized most people were patient and encouraging, appreciating her effort to communicate. This positive reinforcement fueled her motivation, making her even more eager to engage and learn. She learned to paraphrase when she didn't know a specific word. Instead of getting stuck, she'd describe the concept using simpler terms, a crucial skill for maintaining conversational flow and avoiding awkward silences, demonstrating true fluency. Her journey taught her that how to talk with anyone wasn't about complex grammar, but about genuine connection. It was about listening actively, showing interest, and being willing to make mistakes while trying to express herself clearly and confidently. She became an advocate for immersing oneself in the language, even when physical immersion wasn't possible. She changed her phone language to English, read English news, and consumed English media, creating a personal English-speaking bubble. The frustration she once felt began to transform into exhilaration. Every successful conversation, every new idiom understood, every fluent sentence spoken, was a testament to her dedication and the effectiveness of her multifaceted learning approach. Lena's transformation wasn't instantaneous, but a gradual, consistent evolution. Each day brought a tiny improvement, a subtle shift in her confidence, a slight increase in her speed of thought, culminating in a profound change over time. She discovered that consistency trumped intensity. 10 minutes of daily, focused practice was far more effective than an intense 3-hour session once a week. Little by little, a little became a lot, building her English mastery steadily. Her friends and family noticed the change. "Your English is so good now," they'd exclaim, astonished by her newfound eloquence. Lena would just smile, remembering the hours of quiet practice, the internal battles, and the persistent effort. The ability to express herself freely in English opened new doors, professional opportunities, global friendships, and a deeper appreciation for diverse cultures. Her voice, once silenced by fear, now resonated with confidence and clarity. She learned to enjoy the process, seeing each interaction as a chance to learn, not a test to pass. This shift in mindset was crucial, turning a daunting task into an exciting adventure, making her learning journey sustainable and enjoyable. Even on days when she felt tired or unmotivated, Lena committed to at least 5 minutes of English practice. This small commitment prevented her from losing momentum, ensuring that the habit remained ingrained and productive, even minimally. Her journey was a powerful reminder that understanding is just the first step. True mastery comes from actively engaging with the language, speaking it, listening deeply to it, and consuming it through reading, a complete immersive experience. Lena's story is a testament to the power of deliberate practice. It shows that bridging the gap between comprehension and confident communication is entirely possible with the right strategies and unwavering commitment, a remarkable transformation. She now confidently initiates conversations with strangers, discusses complex topics with ease, and even finds herself dreaming in English. The silent understanding she once possessed has transformed into a vibrant, articulate voice, her true self. Her advice to others struggling is simple: listen actively, speak fearlessly, read widely, and practice consistently. Your voice is waiting to be heard. This mantra guided her, and she believed it could guide anyone towards English fluency. The fear of judgment slowly vanished as she embraced her unique accent and occasional errors. She realized that authenticity in communication was more important than sounding perfectly native, a liberating insight for her language journey. She found joy in the nuances of English, in the clever idioms and the poetic expressions. Learning became an exploration, a delightful dive into a rich linguistic culture, expanding her worldview far beyond words and grammar rules. Lena's journey proved that anyone can master English speaking, regardless of their starting point. It requires courage to start, persistence to continue, and a genuine love for the language, unlocking a world of connection and opportunity. Her ultimate reward was not just speaking English well, but gaining a profound sense of accomplishment and self-efficacy. She had conquered her fear, bridged the communication gap, and unlocked a new dimension of her life, truly thriving.